This book kind of ruined it for me. It kind of ruined the reading experience. It kind of ruined my reading mojo. It kind of ruined my will to live. How unimaginative do you have to be to come up with this book is my question. If the author can come up with this, I don't think I really want to keep supporting her. And it is Mariana Zapata. I mean, let's just get down to business. I read 18 books. I mean, hi. Stop, where are my manners? Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, I hope you enjoy your stay. Welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of November, and I literally tried holding them up and it's just too heavy for me. Yeah, I read 18 books in the month of November. I'm just gonna try. For you, I'm going to try to hold these books up, but I am not responsible for whatever happens. These aren't even the 18 books because I did read 3 ebooks. So these are 15 books in the flesh. I'm really struggling to hold this up without none of them falling. No, okay. I spoke too soon. I spoke too soon. Okay. So how are you doing? There's definitely a few ups and downs because we do have a 1-star book in this pile as well, which is very unfortunate, but it happens. Before I can get into all of the good and the bad and the ugly, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to this video's sponsor, Book of the Month. Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers like you and me. Their mission is to promote new and emerging authors and help readers discover books that they are bound to love. Actually, I discovered one of the books that I loved the most this month thanks to Book of the Month, so I definitely have a lot to thank them for. They have a very special offer for the month of December. You can get your first hardcover book for only $5 using the code WONDER. They are also risk-free. You can skip any month at any time and you will not be charged. Their team vets hundreds of books to give us a monthly selection of new and early release titles so we can spend more time reading and less time researching. I have 2 very exciting books to show you guys. The first of them is, of course, even looking at it, the one and only Babel, written by R.F. Kuang. Just look at her. Look at her. You know what I mean? Like, look at her. No words, just her. The other book that I chose for the month of December was Kiss Her Once for Me, written by Alison Cottrune. So make sure to head on over to bookofthemonth.com to get your first book for only $5 using the code WONDER. Thanks again to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video, and without further ado, let's get into the 18 books that I read in November. The 18 books that made up my personality for a month. I actually started off the month in the middle of a reading challenge that I was doing where I swapped my screen time for reading time, and for that challenge I read volumes 6 and 7 of Spy Family. Both of these were 5 stars. I'm really not surprised by that rating because every single volume of Spy Family I've just been loving and loving, and all of the characters that get introduced, the storyline itself, it's so funny and high stakes, and the characters they're just fantastic, and I always have such a wonderful time reading these books. I can't believe that we need to wait until like March to get the next volume. It's just ridiculous to me and a little bit heartbreaking, but hopefully I'll have other mangas to pass the time while I wait for Spy Family. But yes, a very strong start to the month of November with 2 volumes of one of my favorite mangas. The next book that I read in the month of November was A Tale of Two Cities, written by Charles Dickens. Now, I was honestly so surprised that I actually enjoyed this as much as I did. Like, I ended up giving this 4 stars, and I also ended up sobbing my eyes out in the last 20 pages. Yeah, I was a mess because the way that these characters felt so real to me, and they felt like people that I've met out in the streets. I empathized with them, their pain was mine, and that is something that I didn't think I was going to have with Charles Dickens, because for the longest time I've thought that Charles Dickens was such an intimidating author. It was a very inaccessible type of classic literature. I thought my brain just wasn't big enough to understand all of the things that he would talk about. but I was honestly so pleasantly surprised to find out that he is very accessible and his writing is very emotional, and he focuses a lot on developing his characters and telling stories through his characters and making them seem as authentic and genuine as possible. And I think because of that, this story that focuses on the French Revolution and the Reign of Terror, the way that Charles Dickens turns this story into a story of love and a story of humanity and friendship and relationships that we have with people, it was honestly magic, and I enjoyed every single page of this. I found it such an interesting reading experience. A Tale of Two Cities definitely made me excited to read more Charles Dickens, and it also helped me realize that maybe the things that I'm intimidated by are not as scary as they should be. So yeah, Charles Dickens is teaching me a lot of things from the grave. Then I read Ariadne, written by Jennifer Saint, and this was actually the Patreon buddy read for the month of November. I actually gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed reading this book, and I loved learning more about the Greek myths that I've kind of heard of, but I don't know every single detail of. I loved learning about Ariadne and her sister Phaedra, even though it hurts my heart because of everything that they went through. Living this story with them and getting to feel what they felt and just see what they saw, I really enjoyed that experience, and it made me sort of think about all of the times that women are erased from the narrative just because men have always taken the spotlight, especially in Greek mythology. Like we almost never really hear about the women unless they've been scorned, unless they're the villain, but we never really get the reasoning behind their actions. They're just like, oh, she went insane. Oh, she helped a man, she ruined her family. But why? This book explores the whys and the hows and the what comes next and what these things do to women, and I just think it was such a wonderful story about love and female bonds, and it was just a great time. It did tear my heart a little bit at the end there. It did hurt, but overall I really enjoyed this reading experience. The writing as well is so beautiful and so lyrical. Sometimes I just felt like I was reading poetry because it was really wonderful. So I would definitely recommend Ariadne if you have an interest in Greek myths, and also if you just love women in general. I would recommend this book. Then I read a pretty disappointing book, and I didn't want it to be disappointing because I was really looking forward to this book. It is a sequel to a book that I gave 4.5 stars, so my expectations were a little bit high. And when I ended up giving 3 stars, and that's being generous, when I ended up giving a very generous 3-star rating to The Dragon's Promise, I was hoping for the same magic that we had in 6 Crimson Cranes. But we didn't. We didn't get it, and it was such a shame because I really love the characters, and I think that it had so much potential to be much more than it was. But I think what the author was trying to do with this sequel, she was just trying to do so much in one book. I think this would have worked perfectly as a trilogy and the pacing would have been a lot better. But in this one, since so much was going on and there were like death threats everywhere, our main character was dying like every 20 pages, you never really felt the stakes of what we were doing because you knew she was going to survive since we still had like 300 pages left. You couldn't really feel the tension, you couldn't feel the emotions because you were always moving from place to place. You couldn't just sit and simmer and think about what just happened and reflect upon your emotions. It was all just very extremely fast-paced, and I think that took away a little bit of the magic that 6 Crimson Cranes had. So yeah, the trials were interesting. It's not like they were boring, but after like the first 3, I was like, I'm kind of over this story. Like, I wish I weren't, but I was. So yeah, a little bit disappointing, but not the end of the world. At least it's over. This next book is probably the most surprising of them all. I wasn't even thinking of picking this up until I saw Peru's Project talking about it on a vlog, and the passion with which she talked about this book just made me really excited to pick it up, especially because I already had a copy thanks to Book of the Month, Thistlefoot, written by Jenna Rose Nethercott. This baby is so good, my dude. A sweeping adventure illuminated by Jewish folklore and adorned with lyrical prose as tantalizing and sweet as briarberries. Thistlefoot is an immersive modern fantasy saga by a bold new talent. In this book, we're following the Yaga siblings, and they have been estranged for the longest time. They are very different. One is a rebel, and he just moves from place to place. He doesn't really set roots anywhere. He just keeps running away from what we don't know. And then we have Malakhyn, who is a bit more structured, and she likes order, she likes organization. So when they get this random letter saying that they have this inheritance that they have to come pick up, they're like, what's going on? When they reach the place, it's actually a house that has chicken feet and apparently also has a mind of its own. And so ensues one of the greatest adventures that I've read this month. It was filled with magic and adventure and high stakes and this demon man that's following them for some reason. Every single page just felt like magic. It felt like the characters were coming to life, and the story was so rich and beautiful, but also a little bit horrifying because this is actually historical fiction, so it's sort of loosely based on true events, and when you figure out what those true events are, you're just like oh. Like, yeah, this book just took me for a spin, and I loved every second of it. I loved the writing, the characters, just everything about it. I could not stress this enough. I loved this book, and I would highly recommend to everyone who's looking for a little bit of magic in their daily lives. Thistlefoot is the one for you. The next book that I read was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, written by Harry Potter. And I've been reading all of the Harry Potter books with my friend Sid. For the month of December, we're reading The Half-Blood Prince, so this is the one that we read for November. Despite my previous rereads of Order of the Phoenix, where I didn't really enjoy this one because Harry is just intolerable. He is so annoying, and I always just said, oh, he's just going through puberty, he's just being really annoying, and he's being really inconsiderate of his friends. But this time around, after everything that I've been through and, you know, the character development that I went through, I think I can understand where Harry is coming from. I'm not excusing his actions, and I'm not saying that insulting your friends and screaming to your pet owl is okay, but I'm saying Harry was alone for so much of the trauma that he went through. He had no one to talk to, and the people that he thought he could just turned away in this book. For this reread, I was a lot more empathetic towards Harry's plight, and I think because I tried to keep an open mind to what he was going through, I was able to enjoy this book a lot more instead of just focusing on how annoying Harry was being. So I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is book 5 of the series, so if you haven't read Harry Potter, I don't really want to say anything from what I've already said, and if you have read the book, then you kind of already know what happens. I think this is my 3rd or 4th time rereading Order of the Phoenix, but this is definitely my favorite reread. And of course, getting to share my thoughts and opinions with Sid just makes the experience 10 times better. The next book that I read is the one that I gave 1 star. Yeah, this book kind of ruined it for me. It kind of ruined the reading experience. It kind of ruined my reading mojo. It kind of ruined my will to live. And that is Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. Is it by Tessa Bailey? Yes, it is. And I actually found a review that really resonated within me because that is exactly what I think. Like, when I read this review, I was like, that is exactly it. How did you put it into words? Exactly what I was feeling. You know the porn videos with the really, really bad introductions? This book is exactly that, but with Santa hats. When I read that review, I was like, you get it. You get it. Like, you absolutely get it. Yeah, this book was not good. It was not good. It was horrible, actually. In fact, like, the word horrible was made for this book. Yeah, there was nothing there. There's literally nothing I can talk about because there was nothing there. How unimaginative do you have to be to come up with this book is my question for the audience. If you enjoyed this book, I'm so sorry, babes. We are not compatible at all. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy this book. I didn't even enjoy anything. What is there to enjoy about this book? Absolutely nothing is the correct answer. I don't really want to waste more time talking about this book or even thinking about this book, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. 1-star book, kind of ruined Christmas for me. Yeah, I thought it would be a good idea to read a Christmas romance in the middle of November, and this book proved me wrong. It did, forcefully. Then I read the opposite of a Christmas romance. This is more of a psychological horror type of book, and it's definitely the first of its kind that I read, because usually I've seen a lot of movies like this, but I've never had the pleasure, if I can call it that, of reading these types of books. And it is The Devil Takes You Home, written by Gabino Iglesias. This was a very interesting experience, but also very, like, when you're kind of like disgusted by it and you're like a little bit worried about the author for writing this story and kind of coming up with this. Yeah, it was very unnerving, unsettling. It just kind of like, every time that I picked this book up, I was like, I wanted to crawl out of my skin, because some of the things that are described in this book are very explicit and very gory, and my mind just couldn't take the imagery. Like, sometimes when you see it in a movie, you're just like, oh, that's fine. Like, you're desensitized. Desensitized. You know what I mean? Like, you see something so much, you're like, oh yeah, that's fine. But when you read about it and it's your own mind making up these images and these scenes, it's a lot more harrowing than just seeing it on a screen. So The Devil Takes You Home is about this man who becomes a hitman to be able to pay for the medical bills of his daughter who has cancer. And, you know, once he kills one person, he just keeps going, and it just kind of snowballs into this horrible lifestyle where he starts to do really bad things, added to the fact that he has visions of like demons following him. So as you can see, it is a very dark type of book, and also it's very descriptive. As I mentioned, there are some scenes that are just so terribly descriptive. Not terrible in its description, but it's so, oh god, it's just like, even thinking about it, I'm getting chills, and not the good kind, because it was just a very traumatizing experience. And yeah, I ended up giving this 3 stars because even though it's very well written and the story itself is interesting, I just think it's not the book for me. Like, I was just dying to finish this book because I was interested sort of in the outcome of the story and what was going to happen to our characters. But wow, like, this book, man, is not for the faint of heart. It is definitely not. After The Devil Takes You Home, I picked up A Chain of Gold, written by Cassandra Clare. I definitely needed a book that felt like a comfort because I needed a book to remind me of good things. And even though there is some action, there is some blood, and there is some deaths in this book, I could take it. It's not as terrible as The Devil Takes You Home. So this was actually my second time reading Chain of Gold because I am preparing to read Chain of Iron in the month of December. But since I didn't really remember what happened in Chain of Gold, I decided to reread the first book so that I could read Chain of Iron in December, and then I could read the last and final book in the trilogy, Chain of Thorns, in January. So just so that I could have the whole storyline and all of the characters straight, I decided to reread Chain of Gold, and I loved it. It was such a wonderful time. Like, I love spending time with Cordelia and James. Well, actually, not so much James. I realized on my reread that I don't really appreciate James as much as I did the first time. I think the first time that I read it, I loved him just kind of like automatically because he is Will and Tessa's son. So I was like, yeah, he's a Herondale. Of course I love him. But in Chain of Gold, he is just insufferable. I don't like James. And I know he has his reasons. Obviously, every Herondale has his reasons. But hopefully in Chain of Iron, I like him more, because in this one, he didn't do it for me. But I do really love Cordelia and Lucy and Matthew. And of course, the cream of the crop, the top of the top, Anna Lightwood. Yes. All I can say about this book is that I'm very excited to continue with the series and hopefully just spend more time with my favorite characters. And hopefully James grows a pair, is all I'm gonna say. I really don't want to talk about this book because it was so disappointing. It's by an author that I thought I loved, but now I'm second guessing that decision because this book was very problematic, and if the author can come up with this, I don't think I really want to keep supporting her. And it is Mariana Zapata. Yeah, let's start with that. Let's get it out of the way. Rhythm, Chord, and Malakhyn. This came out in 2015, so you can't use the time that it was published as an excuse for how outdated this book is. It uses very derogatory terms. I don't even want to say what they are, but it's just not worth it. It's like, it's not. The romance is good, I guess, but at what cost? I am so sad that I spent my hard-earned money on this book. I spent like $15 on this problematic, underwhelming book. Like, this book just wasn't what I wanted it to be, and all I was asking for was a slow burn romance. That's all I wanted. I wasn't even asking for much. But you had to go and be problematic and fatphobic and just ruin the vibes, didn't you? We're following this girl called Gabby, and her brother tells her to join his tour because he has a band and they're going on tour, and they're sharing the tour bus with another group, and she obviously has a crush on the other band's lead singer. So it's like this whole thing, and they fall in love through the tour, all the places that they go, the things that they see. But it's just not good, babes. Like, if you want to try Mariana Zapata, never try this book. I hope this book just rots in jail. If there is a book jail, hopefully Rhythm, Chord, and Malakhyn is there, because oh my god, why is it so hard to not be problematic? You know what I mean? Like, it is, I don't understand. I don't understand. I'm so incensed. So I'm gonna move forward because I don't want to spend more time talking about that book and giving it a platform. Yeah, then I read Jade City, written by Fonda Lee, and this is actually the first book that I decided to give a second chance thanks to you guys. If you haven't seen the video where I talked to you about all of the books that I've DNF'd in recent memory, I also asked you guys in that video to tell me which books you think I should give a second chance to, and so many of you told me to give Jade City a second chance. So I did, and I actually really enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed the first section and the last section more than the middle section because it does get just a tiny bit slow, but the characters were there, the storyline was there, so many elements of this story came together so well, and I really enjoyed reading this. I'm so happy that I gave it a second chance, and I'm definitely going to be continuing on with this series because after that ending, oh my god, like, I need to continue this series. I ended up giving Jade City 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I think my favorite characters, nobody asked, but I just have to say it, my favorite characters are Hilo and Andon, just because, like, I'm just a sucker for characters like them, and I just love them with all my heart. I know they're not the best people, especially Hilo, but we forgive. We forgive and move on. An epic tale of family and honor, The Godfather with magic and kung fu, set in an Asia-inspired fantasy metropolis. Couldn't have said it better myself. So there we go. If that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, I would definitely tell you to give this a try if you're into high fantasy, magic systems, very complicated and complex characters. It's all here, babes. It's all here. At the end of the month, I decided to do a 24-hour reading challenge. I'll leave it up here. I would really appreciate it if you watched because I'm still recovering from that challenge. I think just not sleeping is not good for me. I know that's like the most obvious statement, but you never really truly understand how vital sleeping is until you go 24 hours without it. If you could watch and give it a like, I would really appreciate that because I went through so much. But I did read some really good books. I finished Jade City on that challenge, and then I also read volumes 5 and 6 of Attack on Titan. Look at these bad boys. They are chunky, but that's how I like my manga, so I am not complaining. These are the omnibus versions, my favorite versions. God bless whoever came up with these versions. I ended up giving volume 5 4.5 stars and volume 6 5 stars because it just keeps getting better and better. I love the characters, I love the story, I love where it's going. In volume 6, I still know what's happening because I did see the anime and I kind of know what's going to happen, but it's always such a different experience when I get to read it and I get to experience these characters on this format. And of course, reading the manga is making me so excited to continue with the anime. I don't know, I just loved it. I loved every single second of it, and I know things are going to start to get really ugly and traumatizing, and I'm honestly really excited because when this story gets dark, it gets real dark. So I'm really excited. I'm so happy that I'm slowly but surely collecting all of the omnibus versions. I think there's going to be 12 or 11 in total, so we have a long way to go. But I am excited. For the 24-hour reading challenge, I also picked up a very random romance book, and that is Better Than the Movies, written by Lynn Painter. Oh my god, you guys. I literally freaked reading this book because it's so good. It gave me what I didn't even know I was looking for, and it gave me all of the giggles. It had me blushing, it had me squealing at like 12 a.m. It was everything. I loved it. I love the characters. It has the enemies to lovers trope. It has the fake dating trope. It's just giving. And I loved every second of it. Like, I really did. I had so much fun, and I think I was like 8 hours into my 24-hour reading challenge, and I didn't even feel the time passing because I was having so much fun reading this romance book. And that's kind of how I wanted to feel with Rhythm, Chord, and Malakhyn. So after reading such disappointing romance book, I was kind of hoping that Better Than the Movies, you know, made me believe in love again, and it definitely did that. Of course, me, myself, I am a rom-com enthusiast. I'm a hopeless romantic, and this book quotes different rom-com movies at the beginning of every chapter, and it was quoting Love Actually, My Best Friend's Wedding, 10 Things I Hate About You, Say Anything, like all of the iconic legendary movies. It was all there, and I loved every single second of it. The writing as well was so addicting and so easy to get through. It was the perfect pace as well. This is what reading should make me feel like, and I'm just really thankful for this book and that I found it at the time that I did. It was wonderful. I loved it. I loved it. I would highly recommend this. I just loved it. Then I picked up Venus in the Blind Spot, written by Junji Ito, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I read this at 3 a.m. so I was like already a little bit terrified. I could hear things moving in the background. I was like, nah babes, I'm gonna stay right here. Every Junji Ito reading experience is the same for me, but like in a good way. Like, I know I'm going to be horrified. I know I'm going to be like, babes, what's going on? Do we need to go to therapy? But at the same time, I always know that I'm just going to be so amazed by Junji Ito's imagination, and I'm going to be, you know, appalled, disgusted, but I'm also going to be wonderstruck by the fact that this man can come up with so many different stories that don't feel like repetitions or copied from anybody else's. They just feel so unique and so terrifying. I love it. I love reading horror manga. I love reading Junji Ito volumes, and I think that Venus in the Blind Spot is a great collection of short stories. It does include one that is featured in Uzumaki, so I don't really know why they would repeat stories, but it is a good story, so I didn't really mind it. I just found these stories really entertaining and very unsettling, and some of the panels are just stunning. I just really enjoyed it. So yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and I cannot wait to see what else Junji Ito is going to come up with in 2023. Then I decided to give Christmas romance books a second chance. You know, after window shopping, I was very hesitant to start a new one, but I saw this cover and it looked really cute, so I thought it could be cute. And that is a merry little meet cute, written by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. It started off great. Like every relationship, it starts off great, and then you start to notice a few red flags here and there, you start to hate them. You start to be like, why do you exist? You start to be like, why did I ever think we could be a thing? And that's kind of what happened with me and A Merry Little Meet Cute. I was having fun the first few chapters, and then it just kind of like, I lost interest. Let me tell you about the story itself, because this book has a very interesting concept. We are following two characters, a man and a woman, and they have been cast as the leads in this new Christmas film. The thing is, the male lead is this ex-boy band group member that has been in so many scandals. He kind of has like a really bad reputation, so he's kind of trying to fix it. And then the female lead, she is actually a porn star, but nobody can know that, so she's trying to keep that on the down low, obviously, because apparently no one is going to want a porn star for a Christmas family-friendly movie. She has to keep this a secret, but the thing is, when she meets the male lead, he immediately recognizes her because he's like her #1 fan. So he tries really hard to keep it a secret, but obviously the tension is palpable. You can cut it with a knife, and you know, there's just a lot. There's a lot of sex scenes. If that's something you're interested in, this could be the book for you. And I just think the characters, you know me. Like, I feel like I say this all the time, but you know me. One of the most important elements of a story for me is the characters. If they are cookie cutter, stereotypical, run-of-the-mill type of characters that don't bring anything new to the table, the story falls flat for me. You could have the most interesting concept, but I feel like the characters are the ones that carry the story. So if you don't have good characters, you don't have good anything. And I think that's what happened with me and A Merry Little Meet Cute. The characters just didn't do it for me. The concept was there, the vibes could have been there, but they just weren't. I finished my month with a bang because I read Interview with the Vampire, written by Anne Rice. This was incredible. I was expecting to love it, but I was honestly surprised by how much I loved it and how invested I was in the story. We don't usually get vampire stories that are so mellow and so, I don't know, so honest and genuine. Like, the story starts off with a vampire sitting on a table, on a chair, in a table. I hate this. The story starts with this random mortal man that's interviewing a vampire, and at first he's a little bit hesitant to believe him. He's like, you're not really a vampire, are you? But then the more that he listens to his story and the more that he sees the man that's in front of him, he's like, oh shit, you're a vampire. It's basically a confessional. Louis is talking to us about his life, how he came to be, what happened, the people that he's met, the people that he's killed, the guilt that he carries with him, the love that he carries with him, the pain and loss that he's had to endure, and everything in between. It's a tell-all between a vampire and a mortal, and I just found this story so compulsively entertaining, and I enjoyed every single second. Like, yes, I was sleep deprived when I read this, but it didn't stop me from appreciating the beauty and the simplicity of the writing and how Anne Rice explores human connections. Even though you're a vampire, how you can still feel love and pain and loss and betrayal. And it's all of these human emotions that feel so big and so all-encompassing. I have seen some people tell me that they were extremely bored reading Interview with the Vampire, but honestly, if you're the type of person that enjoys a bit of a slow read, a bit of a slow-paced kind of perusal of emotions and the trials and tribulations that a vampire can go through, I think you would really appreciate what this book has to offer. So I ended up giving Interview with the Vampire 4 stars, and yeah, it was great. It was great. These are all of the books that I read in the month of November, plus 3 more books that I read as an ebook. Oh god, I need to put this out. I'm so sorry. I'm a wimp. I'm sorry, I'm a wimp. Yeah, I tried and I failed and now my arms hurt. It's okay. If you appreciate my trying, please leave a like and subscribe and leave a comment. It keeps this channel alive, I swear to god. Like, I can only do the things that I do and keep on doing them if you help me out too. So I would really appreciate that. And you can also go ahead and leave this emoji in the comment section below so that I know that you stayed until the end and you're a true supporter, a true simp. And yes, those are all of the books that I read in the month of November. I don't think December is going to be as successful as November. I'm probably going to read a lot less books, but I'm really happy with all of the books that I've read this year so far, and not because of how many I've read, but because of the quality of them. So if you didn't read 18 books in the month of November, if you didn't even read 5 books, but you still managed to read a few good ones, a few good pages even, like as long as you're keeping the habit alive, I feel like you should feel proud of yourself. Like there are people out there that don't even touch books for months, and look at you trying your best. So you should definitely be proud of everything that you've accomplished, even if it's not in the double digits numbers, even if you're doing your best with uni and school and work. Just focus on you and just focus on filling up your life with things that make you happy. Anyways, I've gone off on a tangent, but just know that however many books you read this month, I'm proud of you and you should be too. So I really hope you enjoyed this November wrap up. I had a lot of fun talking about all of the books that I read, and yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Hey Jimmy, you nice. Keep going.